This is the Crystal Chronicles, your Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia podcast, with Kriese, Mino, and Mark, bringing you all your Defo news and talk. Welcome to Season 3, The Chaos Era. Now let's start the show.
光あれ
Welcome everyone to episode 108 of the Crystal Chronicles, your Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia podcast. Thank you, Ryan is the bomb, who continuously is messing around with instrumentation for our intro. So that was a latest mess with the music there, and he's in chat, so you can thank him or tell him you didn't like it or anything else. I thought it was pretty good. So appreciate his instrumentation and musical stylings, and of course Hate 13 and Dreamy for helping put that intro together. JdotA, play it again. I'll share it with you, JdotA. You can have it. Definitely check out Ryan is the Bomb on YouTube. He does some great stuff, some great covers. So hey, we're not here to talk about music. We're here to talk about Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia. So welcome. I'm Mark, your host, and I'm joined by not one but two co-hosts. The first is Mino Spellgood. Mino, how are you doing today?
Hey, Mark. Doing good. Good.
And I'm also joined by Kriese, aka Zerring. Kriese, how are you?
Tired, but I'm happy that Mino decided to purple Kefka so I don't have to.
Yes, both characters are represented tonight, so we should be able to give you a little bit of information about Cloud of Darkness and the Mad Clown, Kefka. Before we do that, last week we introduced you to the TCC Challenge for Reliable Partners, the KAIS event, which, for the regular challenge, banned Aarolei, Leo, Vayne, Beatrix, Freya, Snow, Galuf, Zack, Lightning, Aranea, Friend Aranea, and the Synergy characters, which were Cloud, KAIS, Zidane, and Elfinal. The EX Challenge, the Extreme Challenge, was a special challenge which only could bring two characters. Aarolei and Aranea were banned. Aranea Friend was banned. You could bring any other banned units as a friend. Cloud, Zidane, KAIS, and Elfinal were banned. And here are the winners. About the same number of winners, I think around 35 to 40 in each category of the TCC Challenge and TCC Challenge Extreme. Congratulations to all of you. Mino or Kriese, did you have anybody that you wanted to shout out specifically that you saw or you wanted to highlight in that before we move on? I'll leave it up for a little bit. I'm good.
Unfortunately, I didn't have a chance to look at a lot of these runs.
I don't want to call out a specific player at all, but I did want to highlight something about the Extreme Challenge. As you all know, we mentioned this last time. We tried something a little different with the Extreme Challenge this time. We used a less restrictive party list, but we cut you down to 2 party members, and you guys had some fun with it. It seems we got a lot of different players who posted runs. It was a pretty restricted list of who you brought. Pretty much, actually, everyone brought at least one tank, and out of them, most of you brought a Galuf. If you did not bring Galuf, you brought Snow or Zack. So we probably won't try this again, but it was a fun little experiment. Look forward to more TCC Extreme Challenges in the future. I'm glad at least some of you enjoyed it.
Remember, regardless if you record your runs via video or put them on YouTube or anything else, submit them to the Call to Arms, which is on Reddit, or you can go to DissidiaInfo.com and find it there as well. That is our friend Macnol that owns and operates that. And then helps us with the TCC Challenge. So check out all of those who submitted the TCC Challenge, some of the better players in the game, if not the best players in the game. So if you're looking to up your game, I think that's a great list of folks to kind of follow in terms of gameplay and extreme runs. So check them all out. I'll leave that on the screen for a few minutes as we talk about the other news of the day. So we, of course, had the Squex mobile stream, and we're going to talk a lot about what was on that stream, as there was a lot of content to pack in this month before, of course, the release of a new tier or 2 new tiers of weapons. So the first thing that we got, which I wish we would have gotten last month, but anyway, it's here, is the second batch of character boards from the June characters who did not get boarded. That included Lena, Cypher, which we weren't sure, I don't think, that they were going to get theirs, Prompto, Freya, Preesh, Fujin, Cyan, Ida, Alphanol. So all of them now have their character boards available, 5,000 character points to board them fully. All characters with featured EX realizations going forward should get their character boards. For example, Cloud of Darkness and Kefka both got their character boards with this chapter, so you can character board both of them. Have you guys character boarded? Let me just ask this. Mino, who have you character boarded at this point?
Total? I don't remember. Fujin from this new batch. I'm still working on Kefka. I need the new chapter points for him. Other than that, I think How many total do we get? I'm using them as they come.
I think about 7 currently.
7? No way.
I have 6, and I think I have 10,000 at the moment. So you could have 8 total.
Really? Holy shit. I only remember like 4 or 5, but...
No, I'm sorry. You could have 7 total.
Okay,
6. With the current chapter.
Shit.
Yep.
Shantoto,
once you complete the current
Ramza,
chapter.
Fujin, Arciela, Kais. It's going to be some... Oh, Onion Knight. Done.
There you go. Kriese, who have you character boarded, and any comments on them?
So far I have boarded Lightning, Arciela, Fujin, Alphino, and Zidane. So I've boarded 5 characters. Been happy with all of them so far, though I have not gotten as much use out of Lightning. I kind of boarded her just as a first character to experiment with. Everyone else has seen decent use out of their boards. Well, kind of. I just obviously boarded Alphino and Fujin the other day, so I haven't had a chance to play with them much. I'm hoping to see some nice return on investment there, but everyone else's boards last month were very nice. I enjoyed them a lot. I spoke about Zidane's boards, I think, last week when we spoke about it.
I have boarded Cloud of Darkness, Fujin, Zidane, Yuna, Arciela, and Kais. Yeah, so that's my boards. I hope yours are good as well. All right, well, moving on from character board updates. Sorry, I'm doing more than one thing at once, and I'm never good at that. We got character voice lines, finally, from our character boards. Now, how that works is when you fully unlock a character board, there are nodes at the end, treasure nodes. Each of them unlocks a unique voice option that can be used in co-op. The language that they speak is Japanese, but then there is a written kind of a shortened version of the quote, what they're saying in English in game. You can read the full text, and then it kind of shoots out a smaller version of it as you're playing co-op. You can go to your settings and character guide if you want to just listen to them and read them outside of co-op. Of course, you can just do a co-op and do it solo and kind of go through it. So these are only basically characters you character board and fully character board. Mino, have you had any experience with those? I know you were looking for them the other day. Any thoughts on that? I know you have a lot of thoughts about the language issues, but any thoughts about that?
Not really. I will say that the finding them in the character info was clunky because you can only scroll left to right through each character one by one, and they're numbered by, I guess, series. They're ordered by series. So to find Fujin, I had to flip through 70 something characters.
Yeah.
To get there. And I hope, I don't know how it is in JP. I really hope there's an easier way to preview these in the future, because I would really love to just listen to them. But the way it is now, since we only have like a handful, like you said, we can only get like 6 or 7 sets of voice lines, and we have to flip through a cast of 126 right now to listen to them. Here's praying that there's a quality of life later that makes that easier to find, for sure.
Yeah, Kriese, any...
Masalento is saying that you can access the character guide from each character page in your party.
What? Okay, never mind. I take that back. Then I guess there's already an easy way to access that, and I just didn't know. So thank you, Machilento. He corrected me and Black Cloud on his how to pronounce his name. By the way, apparently we say it all wrong all the time.
I was gonna ask that. So because I was pretty sure we were saying it wrong. Masaleno is how we've been saying Machi.
Yeah, Machilento. Yeah.
Machileno. Let us know. Is that correct? Machileno Games is our friend who streams, and check him out on Twitch. He does some great stuff. So I saw Resvoina here as well, Black Cloud and Macnol. There's Strafes on here. A lot of our friends. If I missed anybody who streams or is on there, I apologize. But yeah, Machileno. We can call you whatever you want. That guy who is in Italy. Yeah, Machileno. I'll try to remember that, though. I like to pronounce people's names correctly, even if they're pretend names that aren't real.
Real people take precedence for sure.
Yeah, so there is one thing with the voice lines I did want to talk about that that Mino actually brought up, and this is Fujin. I love Fujin. She's great in the game, and I enjoyed her in the version of Final Fantasy VIII that I grew up with. And of course, if you haven't played Final Fantasy VIII, Fujin speaks in basically one word, maybe two words, all capital in the English version of the game. At least that was released here in the United States in 1998, I believe. And so it's always because of her, she's got the eye patch and she's very straight-laced. The American teenage, I didn't have any experience with Japanese culture when I was 18 or 17, 16. So the presumption that I got growing up was that Fujin was this kind of like strong, stern character, right? Well, you listen, and Mino's talked about this before, but you listen to her voice lines and she's adorable. She's like really cute, right? And she's kind of soft spoken. And so you're like, what the hell is going on? And can you explain that a little bit for us, Mino, what that's all about? Because it really changed the perception of the character for me.
I was actually going to avoid this because we have such a packed episode. I thought we would keep it to... Okay. Okay, but apparently this blew people's minds because we were talking about Fujin's voice lines in our host chat earlier. And basically, so I just to make this short, I don't know how familiar some people are with the Japanese language, but basically in Japanese, her lines are all kanji, and the localization choice for English was to make that all capital letters, which I don't think was a good choice, because how the character is supposed to be presented is she's supposed to be extremely painfully shy. So anytime she talks, she can only get a word or two out. And she does it in kanji, which in Japanese signifies like very formal speech. Because, I guess if you're shy, like the vocab choices are good, like callous, disturbing, stuff like that. Because if you're going to be painfully shy and you can only say a word or two, you're going to get out, like, I guess, the formal, important words, or the, big words that can say the most in a little bit. So her character, apparently a lot of people who play the English version don't get this, but she is supposed to be extremely, extremely shy. And so that's why the speech at the end of the game is such a big deal, because she finally speaks normally to tell Cypher to, like, get it back together, or like, like her and Raijin are always going to be there for her, her long line, her third voice line or whatever, when she makes that speech. And so the localization for English made it all caps. And I think it's a bad decision, because I think all of us English speakers who read all caps see that as shouting. So like, I think everyone thought she was this person that just shouted everything, or had some sort of huge problem because she only talked in one word, all caps. But yeah, the true intention is she's supposed to be like cripplingly shy, and she can only manage a word or two out at most.
Well, there you go. There has been your English-Japanese video game localization lesson for today, but it did kind of change the perception.
I actually read it kind of like as Resvoina did. I read it as Fujin was kind of like this weird stoic personality where she'd only say things in one word commanding tones. So Raijin was kind of like her translator. So the shyness makes a lot more sense after Mino explained that to me for the whole Raijin Cypher Fujin dynamic, because it never made sense to me why Raijin was always the one who was taking the lead if Fujin was supposed to be the aggressive one and the one who was supposed to be the loud one or the demanding one in the way I perceived her. So yeah.
All right. Well, there you go. Now, there's been a couple game changes. The cutscene now has the option to autoplay, and you can hide the user interface, which, I mean, the only reason you would want to do that, because you can't actually see the dialogue when you hide the user interface, so it would be to, like, take a screenshot and share it, or, edit it in some way. So I can't imagine there's any other reason. Can you guys think of some other reason you would want to do that? Because it actually hides the dialogue. It doesn't just hide the skip autoplay options. It hides everything.
Right.
So, it must be to take a screenshot.
Yeah, I can't imagine any other reason. Kefka also got a new costume and a gem bundle, of course, and the costume is based off of one of his original sketches, of course. He had 2 or 3 different options if you look through the sketchbooks from, what's his name? I always forget the artist's name who did all those sketches. It shouldn't be too hard. Mino, tell me his name because I always forget it.
It's Amano, right?
Yeah, Amano, yeah. So it was one of his earlier kind of concepts of Kefka. So if you like Kefka, and it's a nice looking costume, actually. It's really colorful and a little bit more royal looking, I think, regal looking maybe, than his kind of more clowny colored. So, well, let's move from news to kind of the upcoming schedule, because we do have a pretty loaded month. And so I just want to highlight a couple things that came from the Squex mobile stream. Just between the regular content, 3 new characters, 2 lost chapters, and a summer event. We were kind of figuring, because at this point in Japan they had an autumn event, so we were kind of figuring for a summer event, which we are getting, and you can read all kinds about it in the in-game notice, and of course in Discord we have all the stream slides from the Squex community mobile stream, and thank you Quetz for that, Quetzalma. Now, one of the big news events of that was what's going to be on these banners that we're getting. In terms of, there's 3 banners or 3 different parts of this summer event, and it was announced on stream that Aranea is coming back with her event. You will be able to do it up to, I think, level 70 just for the co-op, get all of her stuff. And
level 50 is what they said.
Yeah, level 50. Oh, so there's no co-op, just the level 50, like the lock rerun we got?
Yeah, just like the lock one. Basically, you can get the 2 free armors, the free level 15 CP, that's it.
Which means she will be coming back on a banner. We don't know if it's going to be the event banner or a different banner, but it will be one of the banners. There likely will be a free pull. But yeah, Mino, what's
there will
your...
definitely be a free pull. I think they made that clear on the stream, right, Mino?
Yeah,
and I think they made it clear that it was going to be on the 3rd festival banner.
Yeah, I think which is July 20th. 21st.
Yeah, and we've seen a lot of hot takes around the community saying Aranea is a trap because she's coming right before LDBT and she's already an outdated character. Guys, stop. I don't think people really understand how she works. So how LDBT, starting next month, we're going to get regular Brave damage reduction across all fights moving forward. In the beginning, for the first 2 months, that caps out at 50% damage reduction. Once you hit about 50%, 30% boss HP, Aranea's Vital Crusher debuff alone cancels that out. Because, well, actually, yeah, no, it does even more, because not only does it let the entire team crit, but it also multiplies that crit by an additional 150, an additional 50%, which cancels out the damage reduction. The reason Saz is so hyped is because Saz does the same thing with his own buffs, and Saz was used to carry all the way through till Lufania, even then some, because he can cancel out that damage reduction for the entire party. Aranea does the same fucking thing, and probably way more damage. So anybody who thinks that Aranea is not a worthy pull just because she's quote-unquote so old, that is blatant misinformation.
Aranea is going to be bringing a similar crit damage amplification as Saz. Better, right? I think we did the math.
Well,
better for
her.
herself.
Yeah.
Like she's personally better DPS. But the point is, you can bring her instead of Saz and get the same results pretty much. Yeah. Other than the big fat generic buff Saz gives everybody, of course.
Her crit damage amplification is more for her than it is for her party members. So Zaz is standard among all three of the party members. Not saying Zaz is bad, because I mean he's still obviously it makes him really useful.
Zaz is a better party support, and he still brings pretty impressive damage. Remember, he's getting a pretty nice rework when he reappears and gets his EX.
But
also, one more thing to quash, a lot of people were asking if she's getting character boards or not. It is confirmed she is not. So she's coming as is. So don't expect voice lines or character boards.
Yeah, if she was getting character boards, that would be ridiculous.
She, as Mino said, confirmed.
Yeah, that would be ridiculous. And likely, obviously, she'll have LD character boards when she gets released in Japan. So they wouldn't give us the character boards probably early because of that. So, I mean, somebody said in chat, I forget who, but somebody said, if you don't like her, don't pull her. Yeah, you can skip her because you can skip anybody in this game. But if you did not get her before and you are a newer player, basically, if you've started since February and you have not cleared Dimensions and Entropy tier 12 or 13, she can help carry you through pretty much any one of those tiers. So, not only that,
thing to note about
everything
this
else
is that there were a lot of players who started after Aranea's banner left, and this is a great opportunity for them to get a chance to pull on her, because a lot of players said, everyone's been talking about this great character Aranea, and I missed her. Is there a way for me to get her? Well, now there is. You'll have your chance. So keep that in mind. For all those players that missed Aranea the first time, you have your chance to get her, which players who missed Beatrix the first time, they did not get that opportunity.
Yeah, I can't recommend enough. If you are a new player, if you've started since, or you took a break or something, started since the Aranea event, there's no reason not to pick her up. And if she comes on a banner with 2 other EXs that are decent, I mean, if it's not just a rerun of her event banner, but if it's actually a banner with 2 other EXs, whatever that may look like, it's probably going to be a banner worth pulling on. So,
and I wanted to add that if nothing else, you will be able to slot her comfortably in the later entropy stages, because past 15, entropy's kind of crept until 20. The next 4 to 5 tiers are going to be much easier with a bunch of LDBT characters running around. And if you've seen JP lineups, people have slotted in, ridiculously outdated characters in those later tiers just because you can. Aranea is not going to hold your team back. Vital Crusher alone is going to pay for itself. And it is just a nice touch that they're running it now. The theory is she's probably going to come out soon in JP, maybe next month or so. And the point is, this way, when she comes, it's just closing the gap, because remember with Beatrix, we had to wait 1.5 years before she came back in global at all. People actually hoped for an earlier rerun. For the people that missed it, it's just very nice. They're giving a second chance for it and making the gap for when she returns even smaller. So it's really nice.
Oh, it's a super smart move.
And she'll be nice for, I think people have been saying she would be a nice fit for Dimensions End tier 13 if you've not already used her somewhere else.
Yeah, that does not resist range. Yeah,
13. I thought it did.
It resists melee.
Resists melee, but not magic or range. So Eldnarsh is used very heavily on 13. So Aranea will work fine as well. Yeah, I think, WTB Riku was asking if we think the Cater banner, if you watched my Should You Pull video for July, and you can watch that on the TCC, the Crystal Chronicles YouTube channel, please do. I did go over Cater because it was during this event that Cater did come out. In fact, I'll just let you know what those banners were in Japan. We're not data miners, so this is what Japan got. in their autumn banner or autumn festival banners. Their first banner was Cater with her EX realization, Rework, Leo, and Pinello. The second banner was Dark Knight Cecil, Emperor, and Iggy. The third banner was Edge, Beatrix, and Yuri. We believe the third banner will be the Aranea banner, so we don't know who else will be there. But if it follows the same kind of pattern, then that first, it will be July 1st, that first banner will be Cater. I believe that's at least the order that I have it written down. So don't quote me 100%. You can go out to TomberryTroupe.com and look out their planner. They always do a very good job at that. So, but I think that's where I pulled it from.
I'll just mention too, there's rumors going around that we might not get Cater with this summer event. We might get her, we might not. We do not have confirmation either way, so do not expect to see Cater here.
Yeah, they didn't announce
it. Show up, but it is not announced, and it is not confirmed either way. So be careful.
Yeah. So yeah, don't necessarily believe or hope that Cater will come. She may not, but we did already get Dark Knight Cecil, so we may get him again, but it's likely that maybe we won't. Maybe we'll get another. There's some talk that Vivi, that was the one I was thinking about. I said Kanon, the should you pull, but Vivi's kind of not attached to any specific event, so maybe an early Vivi. There may be somebody else as well. Not that an early Kane would be bad either, but he is tied to an event. So, all right, some other things just kind of looking ahead. LDBT is coming in August, so unless there's some kind of act of God or something else we don't know about, if you follow the Japanese schedule of the game, the next event following the Trey event was the release of Squall's Burst Weapon and LD. So prepare yourself for BTLD. There's a lot of, every single banner this month is worth pulling on if you're interested in it, and really could kind of fill holes in your roster, especially if you haven't completed all 12 tiers of Dimensions End. You could pretty much kind of fill in your holes just from this month. There's just options for everything. But you also probably want to go in a little bit with BTLD. I think the one thing that I'll say before I pass it on to my co-host is that first month or two of BTLD is not super stacked with overwhelmingly powerful characters or overwhelmingly powerful content that you really need to pull, besides the challenge events, which again we'll talk about in great length later. But Mino, what was your kind of thought about heading into BTLD era? Any strategies or thoughts, or is there too much talk about it? Maybe is the question we should be asking.
I plan to go way into depth of this right before it hits if we have Black Cloud on as a guest right beforehand to really just tackle that. There's a lot of thoughts, and I'm going to save the specific stuff for later. But for now, there's no shame in pulling now for characters just because they don't have BTLD. There's a lot of good characters moving forward. Me personally, this month I'm doing Eldnarsh and Saz just because they're just all around useful characters. Oh, and they're fun, but also to summarize it, when BTLD comes, you have to decide if you're going to be the type of player who's going to try to do the challenge quests or you're not. If you're not going to do the challenge quests, it really doesn't matter what you pull. You can get through the rest of the next 4 or 5 months with the most meta characters, with characters you pull now. Saz and Eldnarj will carry you to Lufania if you don't care about challenge quests. But likely a lot of JP players said this: either you do actually start pulling just to do challenge quests, and that keeps the game fresh because challenge quests become the hardest content in the game. Chaos becomes a little trivialized because we're already getting the next power creep tier of weapons without the next tier of difficulty. So it's kind of like, imagine running Cosmos for the next 4 or 5 months, okay, with the EX plus weapons. It's going to be boring. It's going to be a joke. And people have literally used Arciela plus Kais plus whoever to just play for 5 months. And then they get bored and they quit because the game is dead at that point if you don't take on challenge quests. But if you do take on challenge quests, then you're going to have to be forced to pull more regularly to actually do them since they're synergy only, et cetera, et cetera. I think we're going to lose a lot of players in this upcoming garbage time. No doubt about it. because the game is saying either pull more frequently or have a dead game. And if people hate TCC challenges because we ban 12 characters a week, people are going to hate challenge quests because they ban 125 characters a week. So when each event is only 4 or 5 characters viable. So talking to JP players that chase challenge quests, the game is fun if you attempt to do challenge quests, because all of a sudden every event is a TCC challenge. All of a sudden the fights are designed around the 4 or 5 characters you have to use. So what challenge quests become is a puzzle you have to crack. They give you the tools. They say, here are literally the only characters and kits you can use. You have to solve the fight with these tools. And that's the game until Lufania. But if you ignore that and just go for the chaoses, I don't know. There's a big prediction that a lot of people who don't want to take on the challenge quest and pull are going to quit, because this was specifically made to break hoarders.
Kriese, any thoughts about
the other thing to keep in mind is that we're also getting a drop rate change with the introduction of LDBT weapons. EX weapons become more common. BT weapons get added to the pool. LD weapons get added to the pool. You get more reasons to use your gems. So try not to go into the era with no resources at all, because all of a sudden your draw resources, your tickets and gems become more useful than they were a few days before. The same thing that happened when EX weapons were introduced, when double EX banners were introduced. It is a huge increase in resource value. So while we have very good banners here, try not to burn everything that we're going to collect this month. And we're going to get a lot of resources this month. Try to save a little something.
Let me answer a few questions in chat. A couple people are asking, what do you get for doing the challenge quests? You get BT tokens. I believe it's 2 for the full complete. And what that means is 50... You
need 50 total.
Tokens?
Yep, 50
for the
total.
Yeah, 50 for the BT. So, of course, it is 6-month perfect streak to get a PT weapon. Like, it's not very rewarding. So, in that way, it is good that they skip it. It's kind of like how a Chaos Complete is 3 tickets, right? Like, luckily, if you skip it, you're not missing much, but the fun is in the challenge if you want to stay engaged with the game. The second thing is, will BT be required to complete the challenge quest, or all EX plus? So how it is, and it gets easier as it goes as more people get LD, but in the beginning, if you have if you have 3 characters with the EX plus even just realized, you can probably do it. The BT LD is a giant crutch though, because and that's why I say BTs aren't dead weapons. Or when we get there, I'll say that the only important pull is the 2-week LD synergy, because that carries you really, really, really hard. If you pull that BT, you will be set on challenge quests for 2 weeks, and that's about 3 challenge quests, and that's why they're so strong. Otherwise, you need a well-rounded roster. We got to get back on track, looks like.
So some other things to talk about. There is going to be that campaign that we talked about. When you complete Dimensions and Entropy up to tier 12, you'll get rewards. I forget exactly how it's. I think 1, 5, 7, 12, something like that. You will, if you have completed tier 12, or if you complete tier 12 by the end of the month, you'll get 4 books and 4 ingots, weapon related, and a whole bunch of gems, like 9,500 gems. And then tier 13 will come out, and if you complete all 13 tiers, perfect all 13 tiers, you'll get another book, another ingot, and 20,000 gems. So it ends up being total, if you have completed by the end of the month, and just it's a limited time campaign, the 13 tiers of Dimensions and Entropy, 5 weapon books, 5 weapon ingots, and almost 30,000. Yes, Hero, thank you. 1, 5, 10, 12, and 13 for the tiers. That is the tiers you need to get. So you should, if you have not attempted Dimensions and Entropy, and you have been playing for at least a month or 2, you should at least try it to get to the 5. I mean, you're talking, if you do the first tier, it's an extra book, extra weapon ingot. The 5th tier, it's 2. 10, it's 3. 12, it's 4. 13, it's 5, and a whole bunch of whole bunch of gems. So really, really take advantage of that and enjoy that, because it's going to be.
And these are on top of the rewards you get for just completing the tiers, because you get 2 full weapon ingots and 2 full armor ingots per perfect tier. So keep that in mind. So on top of the normal rewards, these are limited time bonus rewards for this month. It's an extra incentive to get caught up now.
Yeah.
So if you're slacking and you think, I put this off, now might be a good time to do it. And there's tons of people on our Discord that are more than willing to help if you ask for help and trying to figure out how to get through this if you're having trouble. So do not be afraid to ask for help. I asked for help on a couple of tiers that I was struggling with, and there were a bunch of helpful people who got me through them and assisted me in trying to sort out my issues.
Yeah, if you
To clear one more misconception is a lot of people were saying JP just had a recent campaign where they said that they were reinstating these rewards, and if you already had them, then you won't collect them again. So a lot of people thought that, I can just skip this one and get ready for the next one. But it turns out in JP there was a coding error. Veterans who already collected the reward were able to collect them again, and the JP devs just said, fuck it, it's in the player's favor, so we'll leave it as is. There's a lot of talk on whether they're going to do the same for GL or not. I don't see why they wouldn't, because again, many things like Fang's AA and a Realm's Free Turn were kept in both versions because they benefited the player. So I think it'd be naive to bank on skipping this one and collecting them again. It's safer just to rush it now. You have a month and a half.
Yeah.
That's a lot of time to do it.
Yeah, I would encourage anyone, if you haven't taken the time to do it, you can go to, I believe it's Tracker. Is that the name of the website? You can find it in our list of things here. And they have this thank you, K9 Word, for the Twitch Prime sub, or just the regular tier 1 sub. Thank you for 3 months. But the idea is that you can go fill out your roster and then share that with us if you're struggling with it, and we can kind of help you out with that. So take advantage of that. Join our Discord. There's all kinds of people who can help you out. You want to try to get as many tiers under your belt here in the next month and a half as possible, because it's just free stuff. And again, you're not necessarily pulling, to finish one, but yeah, if you're struggling, if you have 11 and you're struggling to get 12, might as well pull to figure that out, or same with 13. So there's a lot of options for you. So start working on that. It's at this point, the first couple weeks of it. Thank you, Taz, for the Twitch Prime sub. Yeah, we are in the hype train. So appreciate. Hey, just take a moment here. Thank you for all of you who sub to this channel. It does help for the cost of producing the podcast and getting it out there to so many different venues. We really appreciate it, and it also allows us to build some revenue so we can give back to you. I am planning to do a kind of a subathon when BTLD comes out, because I'm going to be pulling for Squall, of course. So we'll do some giveaways for that as well. So thank you. I appreciate it. And feel free, if whether you have a Twitch Prime account or some Twitch subs, feel free to sub. We appreciate all of you. And
another
we do have
useful resource, sorry, Mark.
No, please.
Tonberry at Troupe.com. They have a guide for every single tier.
Yes.
To help you figure out what the bosses do, what you need to know about the fights going in, and also some lists of what other players have used to get through the fights. So team ideas. So check them out too if you need some help.
And thank you, Hey13.
Thank you for the support. Ideally, I make this my full-time job, and I'm able to quit in and out. So
we're gonna need a lot more subs.
That's why I've been doing more off streams throughout the weeks lately, trying to make it big as a streamer. So thank you. Every bit counts.
Thank you, Aries Music, for the bits, and thank you, Hey13, for the gifted subs. There's some other content we want to talk about before we get into tonight's big events. We are going to get 8 free pulls, and so if you have the math out, here's going to be the free pulls. We're going to get a free pull on not on Cloud of Darkness, not this banner, obviously, not on the Athmala chapter, but the 3 summer banners. We're going to get a free pull on, free multi-pull, first free multi-pull, or first multi-pull is free. There we go. Eldmarsh, we're going to get a free pull on. Ultimate Alexander, we're going to get a free pull on both of those banners. The first one has Ragin and Saz. We're going to get a free pull on Charlotta LC and a free pull on the Trey event. So 8 banners total this month. First multi is free, so look forward to that. Good luck. Hey, if you get 1 extra EX on those 8 free pulls. It's another tool in your toolbox, and I think that's great. And I think this is, again, very super generous. Alexander summon boards are this month, so there's going to be a ton of gems. With the 30,000 gems from Dimensions End Entropy, Abyss, Story Chapter, if you go from the end of July to the end of June to end of July, and Alexander, you're just probably 120,000 or more gems this month. We'll tell you at the end, but it's going to be a ridiculous thing. The last thing before we go to Arc 2 Chapter 9 was, where's the MoG PaSs? So Mino, did you have anything to say about where the MoG PaSs is? Thank you, Atui
Okay.
Project. Yes.
I'm not sure why this needs clarification, but
It keeps coming up, so I wanted to just set the record straight on the podcast.
Yeah.
okay. So in JP, they got their MoG PaSs when BTLD dropped, and that was when the next month's update dropped. Okay, guys. So how that coincided with JP was, I don't know. Did we ever have this? So apparently the Alexander campaign leaked one day into the new month schedule. So they got the MoG PaSs for the very last day of Alexander. Have we ever had events or summons leak into next month?
Probably there's been once or twice where summon, special boosted for summon has lasted that long, but I would have to look back to tell you that.
Yeah, the overlap.
Alexander will not be doing that. We did the math.
Yes.
It's ending the day the next community stream is scheduled to occur.
Right. So and with our community streams, we don't even get the update that day. We get it like a day or two after, right? So basically, MoG PaSs will not be overlapping with Alexander's Super Synergy. Please be prepared for that. But in JP, just like here, it dropped on the next month patch. So please stop asking where it is, because it's still on schedule to appear next month.
Very good. Thank you, Atui, for the subscription, and thank you all who have been subscribing here as we are live. All right, so today, or last night, excuse me, we're on Thursday, Wednesday here in the United States. We got Arc 2, Chapter 9, Light of the Living. This brought us Kefka's Rework EX Realization, a new character, Cloud of Darkness, and a new story, which there's so much story, and it's mostly about the cadets of Type 0. Which is a game in this franchise, apparently, because 9,000 of the characters are in this game. It almost has as much
all
love.
Of the Type 0 Geto cadets yet. We're still missing some somehow.
We are still missing a few, although we're going to get more. For some reason, we have overabundance of Type 0 characters and characters from Crystal Bearers. Why on earth are we going to have 3 characters from the Crystal Chronicles, the Crystal Bearers? I don't know, but we do, and a lot of people do love Type 0. I'm not really sure I know a lot of people that love Crystal Bearers as much as I know a number of you who love Type 0. Hiramura Cat, who's a friend and fellow streamer, check him out. I love his streams. We need Queen and Sice, that two of our the female cadets from Type 0. So, Kriese, as I dig into a little bit of gameplay, why don't you let us know what Kefka got, and let's talk about him.
His base kit didn't change too much with his rework, but it just basically brought him up to reasonable standards now, which is pretty interesting. He got a lot more ability uses, which he sorely needed. So he went from, I think it was 10 ability uses, 4 on Shrine, and 8. No, I guess it was 12 ability uses total. It was 4 on Shrine, 8 or 6 on Lighted Judgment. I don't remember anymore. It was pretty bad. To 6 on Shrine, 10 on Lighted Judgment. Basically, he got a lot of Brave Overflow on both of them. He got a lot more Brave hits on both of them. Much greater damage potencies on both of them. They now can be turned into plus abilities if he attacks an enemy that's debuffed. I believe his debuffs are now stronger. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mino. I think the attack defense down are now stronger than they were before.
Yeah, they're stronger.
Yes. Okay. So his debuffs are now stronger. So basically everything just got amped up. It didn't get changed per se. It just got a lot better. So that's what his base kit got changed into, just a much better version of what he was doing before, just basically turned into something that was useful. Because his base kit was solid, it just wasn't very powerful. But the things that make him much more useful in a more prolonged setting, because his his kit's strong now, it just doesn't last long because he burns through his abilities ridiculously fast. If you realize his EX though, what happens is that he actually gets the staying power that he needs. Um, he gets access to a brave ability that does multiple brave hits, so it becomes a much more usable ability. Even if he's not relying on his meteor attack, he gets access to an ability called Meteor Plus after he uses Havoc Wing, his EX ability. Meteor Plus is similar to his base Meteor, except that it does an HP dump at the end. He then regains Brave based on the HP damage dealt, and it does HP splash damage. It's a single use, just like Meteor itself. Havoc Wing gets extra Brave hits attached to it. It deals HP splash damage. It becomes a guaranteed break. He gets a new frame buff called Heartless Angel that does brave damage amplification based on debuffs, which, considering Kefka can apply 6 total debuffs, isn't a bad thing. It basically is a massive damage amplification for himself. And he starts each wave by applying his unique debuff from his EX Sneering Clown to all targets. And he gets access to an HP plus, which is nice. So he has something to do if he needs to save ability uses. Overall, this really just brings him up to reasonable standards now. He still has a reasonably fast charging EX, although it's still relatively so just because of how fast he is overall. I have not had a chance to use him in the new environment yet because I have not realized him yet. I've kind of left him where he is, but his kit is now much better. He hits a lot harder. He does a lot more damage. He's much more reliable than he was, and his debuffs are a lot stronger. He still has niche where he has the HP attack disable. It is only him and RCL that provide that, so keep that in mind. And he is a pseudo dispel in the sense that he provides 6 debuffs, which means that he will kill any other debuffs on any other targets as long as they're not framed, as long as there's no frame buffs on that target. So keep that in mind. And he's not an empty slot, just providing debuffs because he actually does damage. I'll let Mino give his thoughts, and then we'll circle around to me at the end, if in case there's anything I forgot. Mino?
Sure, I am in the middle of fact checking something right now with Tonberry Troupe. Okay, good. Okay, I'm using an old version of the infographic, so something was off there. But when you brought up short longevity, I saw in the infographic it said 6 uses of skill 2, but I know in game I got 10. So it looks like that was fixed later. So yeah, because I was remembering, I was like, no, his longevity is actually pretty fucking amazing. But
I meant in pre-rework, I think it was 6 uses of skill 2.
Yes, okay.
He's
that's
up
fair.
to 10 now.
Kefka and CoD coming up are very nuanced characters. I do like how much discussion we're going to have tonight because they are not so cut and dry. Both of these characters, I feel, lean towards niche specialties. They're not overall useful, but when Kefka works, he works. We talk about redundant roles and duplicates a lot in this quote-unquote golden age for these 2.5 months. Kefka is the alternative to Arciela with the HP silence, which he actually has more of, more shutdowns, and his debuffs are much, much stronger. He is the big debuffer of this age. If he works and none of his shit is resisted, it is a total of 80% attack down and 90% defense down, which is just frankly ridiculous. It's not always realistic that both of these aren't resisted in some way or canceled out with enemy buffs, of course. But but he has this frame debuff now, which is really nice. Just in case all the generics are resisted, his Sneering Clown is 20% down on attack, defense, and speed, along with the sap effect, which means he'll always have at least some debuff sticking. So, of course, being the most debuff-centered character in the game, I believe he's the only one with triple E sphere slots. He is 100% dependent on those debuffs. As Kriese said, the biggest problem with his kit up to now has always been damage potency. And you can really see, because it's EX plus rework through him, let me do the math really quick, 60 plus 50 plus 50, 160% more attack, plus his AA, which increases his damage by 10% per debuff up to 60%. That is how much he really needed to increase his attack. And it makes him decent now. I still would not call him a primary DPS. His hits are low, and his max brave is low without big help. It's 6 hits on each skill AoE, and from 0, he will not cap even if he's hitting all 9999s. I personally like to run him with a lot of strong regens because he doesn't have brave refund other than Meteor Plus. But all that aside, if all his debuffs stick, he is amazing and trivializes the fight for sure. He has all of RCL's HP silence uses, as well as blinds on top of that, and just a huge chunk to attack, defense, and speed, which really makes the enemy do almost nothing if they resist none of his debuffs. If they are debuff immune, he is not even worth bringing. He loses so much of his damage potency. It's ridiculous, and he's just not hitting for anything. So he is very, very dependent on debuffs, very, very niche on whether the fights resist his debuffs or not. All of his AoEs are split damage besides the EX and the Meteor Plus, which means he's in very middling range when it comes to both AoE DPS and single target DPS. Overflow is nice, but in general, you bring him for one reason and one reason only, and that is to neuter your enemies with his debuffs. So if it's like a 3-wave, 2-wave, and they don't resist any of his debuffs, he will. Is that plane getting through in the background? Should I stop for a second?
No, I don't hear it.
Okay, good.
Nope.
Good. Thank you. Then he completely shuts down multiple enemies. That is his sweet spot. Multi-wave enemies that do not resist his debuffs. And also, he has that nice gimmick of guaranteed break on his EX with a splash. And his longevity is great with the Meteor Plus, as Kriese said. And just to throw some things on top of that, I did the math. He has the longest debuff durations in the game. 10 uses of skill 2 at 5 turns each, and then also 6 uses of HP silence 2-turn, blind 2-turn. He can easily keep all enemies debuffed the entire fight by himself easily. So when he works, he works. When he doesn't, he doesn't. I would only recommend pulling Kefka if you really like the debuff thing. And actually, personally, I wouldn't have pulled for him if I just didn't like the character, because we all know how much I hate debuffs and enemy phase characters. But he definitely shuts down a lot of fights, and I've seen video proof that he does this for the next month and a half, 2 months easily. He does what he does very well. And the only thing I want to address is I just don't feel like he's a good pure DPS slot. You definitely bring him depending on the fight. And the last thing I want to say is that a lot of people are worried about pairing debuffs with him because he takes up 6 debuff slots. But this opinion will change when his LD comes out. But for right now, I've had no problem pairing people who throw 1 or 2 debuffs on there. I like Lena with him a lot. I think Aphmau is going to be perfect with him because Aphmau doesn't have the debuffs of her own. Lena has the int down that does push things out. But the thing is that the skill 1, the blind and HP attack silence that rounds out his 6 debuffs, you use that rarely and situationally. Just like Arciela, you use it when you see telegraphed attacks coming in. So they don't always have to be up. So realistically, most of the times he has 4 debuff slots up. And then I run Lena, you throw on the int debuff, the int brave debuff, and then you push it off if an HP attack is coming, and then you can reapply the int brave debuff again. So I think it's really okay to play him with other debuffers. You don't really have to build around party members that don't debuff at all. But so he is more flexible than people think, and his damage is very nice. The longevity is very nice. Just make no mistake, he's not a DPS character. Sorry, Mark, that was a long rant. Let me pass it back to you.
No, that's great, because I don't really have any firsthand experience with him. I did not get his EX back in EX era, when it released initially, so I never really got to use it besides kind of with co-ops and seeing other people's use of it. And I did get it, but I have not purpled it. He's not, again, it's heretical, but 6 is really not high on my list of favorites of the games. It's higher than a lot of others, but it's not really in the most favorite. So he's not like this character that I just absolutely love like so many people. But yeah, I think he does what he does really well. The problem is, with debuffers, we talked about it so much. If a debuffer gets shut out, there's a couple floors of this abyss that I've already gone through where all debuffs are ignored or immune. Bosses are completely immune to debuffs. So, he's just not going to be useful in those things. So and that's the same with every character, right? They have their times when they're not useful, but I think he does what he does really well. His damage output's probably not as high as, I don't know, some of the characters coming out next month, or I guess in August, let me put it that way. But I think it's viable for what we're doing right now. And if you like him and you already had his EX or you picked it up because you were chasing Cloud of Darkness, then he's really good. I think this month is just all about filling in your roster. And I think that's just true in the game in general, but really every single character is good. Every character is viable. They all kind of have their use. And so figure out where they go, and if you like them and they're a favorite, purple them, you'll use them, right? I mean, every single character you'll use. So, Kriese, go ahead. What?
Yeah, a couple things I wanted to fill in at the end that I forgot to mention. I don't think Mino emphasized is number one. With realization, Kefka's EX becomes a guaranteed break on his target, which is really nice. Especially for gimmicky bosses that you want to break at certain times for whatever reason. They get a lot of brave, they're hard, they get high damage resist for some whatever reason. The guaranteed break is nice. Number two, between his generic speed down and a sneering clown debuff, he applies a 60% speed debuff, which is a huge speed down. Between those two, I don't think anyone else applies that much of a speed down on their own in the game, which is another really nice thing. So Kefka does have things going for him in general. Again, he has his niche. He can be shut up pretty hard, but he does have a lot of things going for him. And keep that in mind, guys. He is very strong.
One last thing I wanted to say, which I already forgot while Kriese was talking, and I did mention the insta breaks, I believe, but the thing I wanted to say is, as Mark said, there are people who are universally useful, like Aarolei. These meta characters you just don't have to talk about. If her debuffs get shut out, she's still a strong aura bot and regens. Kefka leans harder into his specialty. He is pure debuffs. If they resist debuffs at all, he's just not a good pick. But that's just how it goes. So some characters are universally good, and those are the characters we call the meta characters. But Kefka is not that, but he works fine when he does. A great HP silence alternative to Aarolei, but honestly, in a pure meta chasing environment, I would not recommend pulling Kefka if you already have Aarolei, which I believe many people think and is why he gets so little attention, because he really does have a better alternative. This is just more flavor leaning into the debuffs, but he is not meta like Aarolei.
I mean, I guess it depends why you're pulling for Kefka. Are you pulling him for the HP silence and you have Aarolei? Yeah, you don't need him. Are you pulling him because you need a mixed mage debuffer character and you don't have someone like Vanille? Then Kefka will fill that role.
Yeah. One other thing I think with Kefka, and I hate to get into this because I don't generally think like, oh, wait till their next weapon. He is the 6th character getting his BT and LD. So 3 months into BT LD era, Kefka's going to get his burst and his LD, and he's going to have a banner with his EX. So, if you do like him and you're waiting for him to come back, he's going to get, whether you use him now and enjoy him, I would, if you like him, use him now and enjoy him, but he's also going to get here in 3 months another kind of time to shine with his burst and his LD weapon. So, and I think they're both fairly decent. We'll talk about that when it comes, right? But he will, it's not like, he's getting this EX realization and we're not going to use him again for a year. He's coming back here in another few months too. So that's nice, for those people that like Kefka. All right, Kriese, do you want to move to the new character that we got, Cloud of Darkness from Final Fantasy III? Not the main villain, but the end game villain, I guess is a way to say it. And in the story, there's been some questions about the gender of it. In the story, it is referred to as it. Onion Knight specifically refers to as a...
In the story, they refer to Cloud of Darkness as both it and
Yes.
she. So I might jump between the two. So
Onion
I hope no one is
Onion Knight
offended.
refers to it as kind of a natural disaster, which I think is appropriate. But Macheleno was able to test Zidane's in-game passive, which gives him attack bonuses when he has female party members, and she does proc Zidane's passive. So we were able to confirm that, I believe. Let me know if that's correct. But I saw that in chat. So so the game considers her both her and it. So there you go. It's 2020, everybody. We'll figure it out together, right?
Speaking of 2020, Hiromura Cat says, it's a waifu, I say. I need more waifus, so I'm rationalizing.
Yeah, right.
Well, to be fair, it's 2020. Waifu is more a state of mind than anything.
Whatever.
Anyone can be a waifu. Chairs can be a waifu, so I don't see why Cloud of Darkness can't be a waifu.
Kais is a waifu.
Yeah, sure.
He's a Selkie, right? Silky Selkie. It's a whole different conversation. All right, Kriese, let's talk about Cloud of Darkness and not her feet, because that just weirds me out, people. No feet conversation in chat, please. It's so weird.
Okay, so Cloud of Darkness falls very squarely into a single role. She is pure magic damage with a slight splash of delay and a little bit of poison damage, but they're much less her primary mechanic. So she rotates primarily around one mechanic, and that is her darkness mechanic. As she uses all of her abilities except for her skill 2, she builds up a darkness mechanic, which is a separate thing. As she builds up darkness, her brave damage overflow builds up. And if she builds up to 5 stacks of darkness, her second skill turns into a different variant. And I'll get to that in a second. It can get up to 5 stacks, and that's where it caps out. Her first skill, Toying Appendages, is an AoE Brave plus single target HP attack. It also gives her a frame buff that gives her a couple basic brave attack and max brave bonuses. The other things it does is it gives her access to her brave plus and HP plus, and also a counter attack. Her brave plus is just multiple brave hits, and her HP plus is a pretty nice one. It's multiple brave hits plus an HP attack that deals some splash damage, and her counter attack is a 2-hit brave attack that triggers only when she receives HP damage. So keep that in mind. For her to do her counter attack, she has to receive HP damage. All of these things will cause her to gain some darkness. Insulating Appendages, Toying Appendages, her brave plus will cause her to gain 1 darkness. And if she breaks a target with these abilities, she'll gain 2 darkness instead. Her HP plus Uncanny Beam will cause her to gain 1 darkness only if she breaks the target, and her counterattack will cause her to gain 1 darkness when she counterattacks. Her EX ability, Anti-Air Particle Beam, will have the same mechanic. It gives her 1 darkness or 2 if she breaks. Her second ability causes her to drain all of her darkness stacks after she uses it. In its basic form, it's an AoE Brave plus AoE HP attack that does full damage to all targets. It also delays all targets by 1 turn. However, if she has 5 stacks of darkness, then it turns into a different variant that does a couple different things. Number 1, it does not consume an ability use. It is 0 form particle beam, and it becomes a single target attack that deals a 6 brave plus HP attack 3 times to a single target, delays that target by 3 turns, and deals HP splash damage to all other targets. So basically, if you build up to 5 darkness stacks and use her second ability, she saves an ability use. She She sacrifices her AoE damage potential for a single target damage potential, concentrates her delay potential into a single target, and gets a free ability and just much more damage. That's basically what it does. Um, Other things, her EX ability is a single target attack. Um, it also gives her another frame buff that increases her attack and applies a poison aura to enemies. And her additional ability is Break Reset Burst. When she does it, it's very similar to Lightning's. It deals a couple brave hits and also undoes the target's break status after the brave hits. She can get up to 3 ability uses of that if she blooms it, and she'll get a small max brave bonus if she fully is awoken. If you realize her EX ability, what happens is she gets drastic increases in her base stats. She starts with her frame buffs up. Her EX ability is cast twice in a row. She gets some brave gain between both HP attacks. She gets a delay added to her EX ability, and just general brave overflow increases. Nothing notable there. Things to keep in mind: her EX ability, I believe, is fast enough recharging that with all of her passives equipped, it's about 1 ability use and 1 brave plus HP plus for her to get her EX ability back up under normal circumstances, which means she can use it pretty frequently. Um, Another thing to keep in mind is regardless on which form of Cloud of Darkness's skill 2 she uses, wide angle or zero form particle beam, it drains all stacks of darkness. It is reset to 0 darkness. So it wants to be careful about when you use wide angle particle beam versus zero form. If you're at 4 stacks of darkness, do you really want to activate skill 2, or do you want to save it for when you get to 5 stacks of darkness, because you're wasting a lot of stacks? That's one of the things you got to be careful with. Otherwise, I mean, it's just maintaining stacks. She plays very simply. The biggest complication is making sure you do not run out of skill 2 uses, because there is only 5 of them base. You The difference being that you can use zero form particle beam as many times as you want, as long as you have the 5 darkness stacks. And I think those are the big things I touched upon. I have not had a chance to use Cloud of Darkness at all. I did not pull on this banner. I just unlocked Cloud of Darkness before the podcast, because this is a long story chapter and I didn't have a lot of time to try it out beforehand. So I have 0 practical experience with this character so far. So I'm going to pass this over to Mino, because I know Mino has a lot of thoughts about Cloud of Darkness.
Oh, yeah, this has been the discussion for the last 24 hours, easily, once COD dropped in our content creator channel. Every mod and content creator in our circle has lots of thoughts on COD, and I've just not read any of that shit because I've been so busy. So here's my own thoughts, totally uninformed, and I am prepared to get screamed at after the podcast, just like my Fujin hot take. Apparently, guys, I never got a chance to apologize for this last week because I missed last week, but I got torn apart for my Fujin take on air by our circle of content creators. So here we go, round 2 with Cloud of. I'm a little drunk at this point. Cloud of Darkness. So, Cloud of Darkness is what we in the fighting game community would call a context-heavy character, because of how her kit changes and how you have to make a new decision depending on the situation every time her turn comes up, rather than have a set battle plan for her, such as characters like Alize or Alphino or whatever, right? Like, there's characters that every time their turn comes up, you know what you're going to do. Whereas Cloud of Darkness, you have to reassess the battlefield every time her turn comes up because of her unique stack mechanic. So there are 2 types of stack mechanics. I was discussing this with Eamon in our Discord today. You have people who just need to build the stacks up, like Pinello and Onion Knight, and once they're ramped, so they're ramp-up characters. Once they're ramped up, they are good to go. But Cloud of Darkness is what a tempo character, because she spends the stacks like Kieran or Sabin, right? Like they build the stacks up and they have peaks and valleys on how their kit works. And so it's really hard to assess her effectiveness. And when we look at tempo characters, we need to look at the worst case scenario and the best case scenario and make the average from there. Because, for example, Cloud of Darkness, the best case scenario is she gets breaks every single turn, right? But that's not realistic in every fight. The worst case scenario is she gets no breaks and she builds one stack at a time instead of two stacks at a time. And it's just so hard to talk about her because she performs so differently depending on the fight. I want to say her ideal environment is she is the best at AoE fights and long marathon fights. That way she has plenty of time to build up her stacks and coast on her HP pluses, on her counters, and then unleashing the S2 plus for the free skill count and the big splash and the big delay. But the thing is, let's not be mistaken here. Base S2 is just as good as S2 plus. It's just very different. Unlike other characters like Sabin, where you want to wait for the plus, and the plus is better than the base version no matter what. COD's S2 is very context sensitive. Base S2 is better in AoE fights. It has the AoE delay and the AoE 100% damage, so 100% better in AoE fights. But the S2 Plus is the free skill use, single target, 3-turn delay, and big splash. So depending on how well she performs in an AoE environment or a single target environment, depends on how long the fight is, who you have with her, whether you need to burn those skills, kind of like Ultimecia, right? Because Ultimecia, it's like she has the free turns to go the distance and the free ability uses, but sometimes in those faster fights, you just want to burn the skills quickly to make the most use out of her. So it really, there's no, whether you build up the stacks to use the S2 plus or just use the S2 base is 100% dependent on you, your situation, and the fight. And I'm gonna get some backlash on this, like I did in the Discord, but I feel like her kit, it has some RNG elements in it because you cannot guarantee she breaks every turn. I think whether or not enemies will be breakable on her when her turn comes is a little bit of RNG, and I believe how many counters she gets off is a little bit of RNG. And again, the more counters she can get off that HP damage, the better for her. So really, always, what makes her such an interesting character is how you play her. 100% depends on that moment in time. There is no set rotation to her, like stupid ass Aarolei, which I hate forever. I hate set rotations. So COD is more my flavor, honestly. But I think so. A lot of people have been exaggerating her power as a DPS. I think she is more niche like Kefka, where you do want longer fights. You do want AoE fights. Single target can work, but she is a little bit out of her element, etc. So she's not like a meta character where you can just plug her into anywhere. But she is very, very strong. And as Kriese says, not a pure DPS. She has some delay aspects to her. Um, but the only thing I want to say is she is more break reliant than any character we've seen so far, I believe. And Mark's going to correct me on this very shortly because he has the
Are
most
we talking about in recent history or just in today or what?
I want to say period because like Lightning and King.
Are we talking what? What?
What?
No, Lightning is way more break reliant.
She has rebreaks on her on her EX plus, right? Hold on.
She
I'm
has
talking out of my
rebreaks,
ass right now,
and
yeah.
that's a huge part of her kit. She's hugely break reliant, and that's the reason she has rebreaks built into her kit.
But for COD, she has to blow AAs for it, right?
Yeah, that makes her she's still break reliant. You said that she is the most break reliant character.
You know what? You're right. You're right. You're right. Thank you. Thank you. This is why we have co-hosts. I'm going to correct myself because I was going to say when we talk about valleys and peaks, her worst case scenario, best case scenario. Worst case scenario, you take 6 turns to build those 5 stacks of darkness to get the S2 plus. Best case scenario, you get you take 4 turns to build it up. So honestly, playing at the skill floor and skill ceiling, there's not that big of a difference. 1 to 2 turns tops in a normal situation. So even if you play her suboptimally, it's not going to change it too much. But it is something to think about, as Kriese said, whether you want to blow those stacks or not. And I want to add in, Machilento brought in a great point, which is even if you blow that S2, base S2, if she has 3 or 4 stacks, it's not a complete waste because the overflow can be very helpful. So eating those stacks early isn't always a terrible thing. But depending on the fight, you really have to see if you're building up that S2 and locking it until you get that plus, or you're just going to eat the stacks as they come. But Kriese, do you have any corrections on that? I'm done with my part. In case you
I
want to
think
fix.
you hit on everything. I didn't have any big corrections. It was just the most dependent on breaks. I'd say Cloud of Darkness is one of the more break reliant characters that has the least way to guarantee breaks on their own. As we said, Lightning has a lot of ways to guarantee breaks between Lightning's EX and her AA that she can use for free if she uses it after her EX, for example, and Vayne being able to re-break if he wants to. Checked is pretty break reliant too because he's relatively turn efficient if he can't get them, in my opinion. But saying Cloud of Darkness is the most break re- reliant, I would say Cloud of Darkness definitely works better if you build around the fact that she works better with breaks, if she can guarantee more breaks, or I should say.
You're right, and I do take that back now. But in Jack's defense, and I think this is irrelevant at this point, he's not completely shut out by breaks because of his insane regen. So he's always going to at least be capping on his regular turns. So that's nice. And
That's
like,
fair.
yeah. Like everyone, I feel like everyone has some gimmicks. Like King is still going to be blasting for almost full damage if you don't get the breaks. The
Yeah,
breaks
I
are
know.
nice for them, but I don't feel like they're shut out from it. And I thought COD was more shut out, but you're right that it's a almost negligible difference if she doesn't get the breaks. But let us pass
I'd,
it to
I'd
our.
also like to point out that Cloud of Darkness does full HP damage to all targets with the base form of her skill 2. So
Yes.
it's a very powerful skill 2. It just becomes a very powerful single target skill 2 that's a free ability use if you get to full darkness stacks. That's the difference.
Right. I
So
agree.
there's a huge incentive to build up the stacks, but you're not screwed if you do not build them, especially for shorter fights.
Yeah.
As Mark's been showing on stream, if you're watching this live, as he's been using Cloud of Darkness while we've been talking about Cloud of Darkness.
Yeah, and the very interesting thing about her is she is a character with a potentially high skill ceiling. You can get a lot out of her if you really pay attention to how to play and play well, just like Kais. Kais works amazing at the base level, but can be taken to a much higher level. COD is that type of character, and very interesting, but I still think and the last thing I want to say is she is an oasis in a desert because I can't remember the last pure magic DPS I pulled for. Right now, whenever I need magic shave, I bring Aerith, and I know Aerith was not someone that everyone pulled for. A lot of people also substitute Arciella just to HP silence to get around the need for huge brave shave, magic brave shave, and then in the future, the next big magic brave shave are what, like Shantoto and um, Vaughn,
Are we
right?
talking non-gimmick based or non-support based
Any
magic?
any any pure magic DPS that's built for huge brave shave. It's Shantoto is the next one, right? In a month or so.
I mean, Garnet's
Ultimecia,
coming soon,
Garnet,
but
yeah.
she's much more support based.
Yeah, Garnet's more support based, not like a pure.
Amitatillion
I would
is the
call her
big
more
magic.
utility as well. But either
Yeah,
way, I feel like it's been a while since our
clean
last
shave.
pure magic DPS. It will be a while until our next pure magic DPS, and even then, those are unpopular picks. Not
Yeah.
everyone's
There
pulling
is
Shantoto.
Rydia people are mentioning is coming at the end of the
Rydia.
month.
Okay, yeah. But again, I feel like these are going to be less popular picks. So if you really do lack this pure magic brave shaver, COD is a solid choice. Just know that she's not a fit all situations type of character and definitely excels in marathon AoE fights. But let me pass this
Oh,
over to
one thing
Mark.
to
Oh,
mention about Cloud of Darkness. that a lot of the magic users that we just rattled off lack. Cloud of Darkness is non-elemental, which means Cloud of Darkness can work with a lot of the
Yes.
elemental characters
Yes.
we have been getting and will be getting. Which is not going to be true about a lot of the characters we will be getting. For example, Shantado and Vaughn will not work with a lot of the elemental
True.
teams that you might want to build.
Yeah,
Ulti LD, people are saying.
the
Black
next
Cloud
two, the next two
Oh yeah, Ulti LD will be coming up.
the next two non-elemental mages would be Amidatillion and Ultimecia LD, right?
After her
Garnet,
Emperor.
Rydia, they are Charlotta, I guess, kind of. I don't really consider her magic, but yeah, and Shantoto obviously tied to elements, Vaughn tied to elements as well, Kefka not. So, but you're 3 months then. So,
Right.
I was able to pull both of these EXs, and I did purple and board Cloud of Darkness. Just as, I mean, it's been a while since we've had a decent magic or kind of melee or magic damage dealer, and I'm not planning on going for Shantoto or Vaughn, and I'm not planning to pity Ultimecia LD. I'm not. I think I am probably a Amidatillion, but so pure magic damage. I thought, hey, if I can pick her up in tickets, then great. It's just another kind of tool in the toolbox. I think the big thing that you guys both mentioned that is something that people need to understand is skill. It's not about ramping up and never using skill 2 when you're only at 5 stacks, because if you only do that, you'll never actually use a skill of skill 2, because when you have 5 stacks of her special darkness ability, skill 2 is a free use, so it doesn't consume an ability. So if you only build up 5 stacks and use skill 2, you'll end the battle with 5 stacks or 5 abilities of skill 2. So it is kind of a, when do I need AoE damage? When I'm at 0 or 1 stacks. When do I need single target delay? And really, again, like Mino said, when you figure that out, mission to mission, wave by wave, yeah, hey, I killed one of the bosses, or hey, I need to split up. We just had that fight where you need to split the bosses up. Hey, I built up 5 stacks. I'm going to split one of these bosses, delay him 3 turns, do tons of damage. But yeah, even if you ignore that and you say, okay, that's just whatever. She has a skill 1 that does decent damage. She has a skill 2 that does full AoE damage, and she has an EX that does massive damage. So, and she just has this utility where she can build up, get more overflow, and then do that nice big hit against a single target and delay them for a few turns. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think she's, if you need magic, if you've been struggling on tier 12 and you really need a mage to fit into tier 12. Yeah, she's going to help there a lot. Or, some of the previous tiers, if you're trying to catch up and you were able to pick her up. Again, I think if you had Kefka, you probably shouldn't pull on this banner. If you don't have either, I think it's worth a few tickets. I mean, obviously, if you love Cloud of Darkness for some reason, or if you're really attached to the character, then get her and you'll use her fine. But she's not like overwhelmingly the most powerful character you've ever used. She's not really on par of RCL in terms of the support capabilities that she brings. She's not really on par with Kriese with the kind of damage output that he has and the enabling that he gives. And I don't think she's going to be on par with, well, she's not on par with Aranea because nobody is. And I don't think she's not going to be on par with Eldnarsh with his just massive damage. But the one thing,
though.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that I have noticed is a lot of the magic using units kind of fall into this. The kits are a little bit more complex, but in the end don't necessarily deliver the crazy things that, like, all the range characters. Like Noctis is going to get all kinds of crazy stuff when he comes back with his LD and BT. Obviously, Aranea is stupid busted. Eldnarsh is stupid busted. Kriese is stupid busted. Those are all range characters, right? And they do tons of stuff. They have complex kits, but they also just do crazy damage right from the get-go. We've had a lot of mages, back before, like before the reworks, before the realizations, you had characters like Kuja and Ace, and Ace is still tough. I still kind of hate playing Ace because he just takes so much to build up. I like him, and he's really good, I think, still. But you kind of got to build up and kind of build up those stacks. You know, Cujo was really like that when he came out. They fixed that a little bit. Ultimisha, you got to build up, and then she gets kind of rolling and is good. She's not really tempo. You know, Emperor in some sense is kind of like that. You kind of have to play around his traps and build up his EX, and then he gets really good. And obviously, if you have a friend, you can really cheese that. And so, yeah, there's a lot of mages that kind of have that, you know, kind of uniqueness of their kits. Yeah, and CSAM saying, yeah, Ace doesn't wipe stacks. Kuja's been fixed. You know, there's been a lot of upgrades. There's very few mages that are just kind of like ready, set, go. I think Golbez is one. He just kind of comes out flying. Even Renoa now with her EX plus, she still wants to start with Angelo Cannon before she does the EX and then gets into, you know, Angel Wing. But I mean, so they've simplified a lot of the mages in this era. But Cloud of Darkness is really still kind of one of those tempo characters, kind of, not always. So I don't know. I'm really struggling to say, oh, she's great. Pull for her. Apparently, my dad's calling.
It's weird because I don't consider. Oh, your dad's calling you.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah, I muted it. He'll have to wait.
Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah. The thing is that I don't think Cloud of Darkness is really a tempo character.
No.
It's like you choose tempo, you choose what you need it to do at any time. Do you need AoE or do you need single target? And then you work towards it, or you go for what you need now. And it's an immediate demand versus a built towards reward, I guess is a good way to put it. It's more decision based. I like the idea behind it. It wasn't enough to entice me to pull, especially after I purpled a character on the last month's worth of banners. I decided to take a break for a little while. But if I wasn't quite worn out, I would have definitely considered pulling here and trying out this character because it's a really interesting kit.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm gonna bring that term over again. Apparently, I invented a lot of terms for this game, but context sensitive character. Definitely one, and I'm sure there's been others, but Cloud of Darkness just stands out for sure. Always look at the situation before you press that button. Not like following a flowchart for those stupid FF14 characters. I hate all of them except for Ishtola.
Yeah, I think the one thing, I think the one thing I'm interested in seeing is really who she pairs well with. Because you'd think like, oh, she does really need some good breaks, but you know, you don't want to pair her with a character like Xdeath because he's not giving you the support. I mean, you're not playing with two selfish DPSs, right, on the same team. So, so you really do. She does need some support, although her potencies are really good right now. In the Brave Reduction era, I'm not sure what that's going to look like, but for right now, she's fine. So she probably doesn't need as much support as other characters, although she'll take as much max Brave as you can give her, right? And as much attack as you can get her. So, yeah, I'm going to let you guys, I got to step out for just 5 minutes. I'll let you guys continue talking about the story and podcast polls and all that kind of stuff. Thank you.
Yeah. Do you have more to say about Cloud of Darkness? Do you want me to cover podcast polls and the boss fight quickly?
Oh yeah, cover podcast polls. I just wanted to ask, we're shorter on time. We're skipping all the story discussion until next week, right? And maybe the Abyss discussion until next week. We can just do podcast polls, blah, 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 and then back to host discussion and do some questions maybe to close it out.
Well, I know you wanted to talk a little bit about Alphino and Kais because we didn't give you a chance to talk on the show last week about them. So we will let you go on your wild rant about Kais and Alphino after we do podcast polls and quick brief on the boss. How about that?
Sure.
We are going to cover Abyss, but we'll probably leave it until next week, guys. None of us really got a chance to cover it because there was so much content dropped yesterday.
How dare they? I've seen so many complaints online. How dare they give us so much content we can't finish it in a day?
Guys, it's all permanent content. The only thing time limited is the co-op nature of the Cosmos, Chaos, and the character board points. Take your time.
Discord and Facebook, the biggest complaint. I hate Abyss. Why? Because it's taking so long. I can't finish it in one sitting. Wow, guys. I've never can't please some people. Like, they gave us so much fucking content, and people are still complaining that they can't finish the content. It's ridiculous. But go ahead, Kriese.
Okay, podcast polls for this banner. This banner was Ace 35CP, Cloud of Darkness EX, and Kefka EX. 6 people said they would pity this banner, including our own Quetzalma. One person said they'd be willing to gem pull on the banner. 41 people would be ticket pulling, and 22 would be passing this banner completely. Out of the people that pulled Cloud of Darkness's EX weapon, 8 decided to leave it as EX only. 1 would just book it, just realize it, and 28 decided to purple it. Out of those who had Kefkas, 8 decided to leave it at EX, which, sorry, I need to add myself. So 9 decided to leave it at EX, 12 decided to just realize it, 1 decided to add 1 ingot, and 28 decided to purple it. So thoughts on that, Mino? I think it's basically what we expect. Most people decide to purple it if they pulled for these characters. Some people decide to leave it at EX only.
Yeah, I mean, if I didn't really like FF6 and Kefka, and I was looking for a purely meta perspective, I would have said to skip this banner. Arciela covers Kefka's role. I pull frequently enough to cover my magic DPS roles, but I am also biased because I'm pulling Shantoto, LD, and BT for sure. That's a guaranteed pity for me, so I'm not worried about magic damage too much. But just the one thing I want to say is, like, COD got a lot of hype coming into this banner, I'm sure. I feel like every banner this last month and this month is going to get a lot of hype. I guarantee you, every fucking YouTuber, content creator, every banner that comes up, they're going to be like, at least one of the characters are mind-blowingly amazing. Aphmau is going to get hyped to shit this Sunday, I'm sure. Eldnar's going to get hyped to shit. Garnet, Saz and Raijin, somebody from every fucking banner, I'm positive.
There's a lot of solid characters this month.
Yeah, and the thing is, though,
Cosmos fight associated with this story chapter.
Yeah.
You unlock them by getting access to the hard mode. You can do these as a co-op quest. You have 2 weeks to do that. Keep that in mind. If you want to do them as a co-op quest, try to do that within the first 2 weeks, because that will go away over after a little bit of time. This chaos fight is a 2-wave fight. The first wave is a Lich and Skull Wizard. Remember the Skull Wizard? It does that HP attack after it does the smirk thing and buffs itself, so keep that in mind. The second wave is a new boss called the Tyrant. Things to keep in mind with the Tyrant: it is immune to Blizzard. It high resist melee. It cannot be taunted. It has a recast ability called Mighty Cobalt Wall, where it does a group melee attack that applies a huge number of debuffs to the party. And if it breaks anyone, it follows up with a group magic HP attack. So don't get broken when it does its recast ability, and you'll be fine. I actually did not know that it did a group HP attack follow-up because I never got broken. So there you go. Other than that, it also summons blade ads during the fight. If you kill those as they spawn with HP splash damage or with AoE attacks, you shouldn't have too much issue. I found they can be a nuisance. They can do a lot of brave damage very quickly. If you leave them up for too long, they can get very dangerous very quickly, so be careful with them. Otherwise, the thing is not very dangerous. It can do some great group melee attacks, but it's mostly single target. It can inflict some debuffs. They're not hugely dangerous, but they can be obnoxious. The big thing is the recast and applying a huge number of debuffs to you. Push those debuffs off faster if you can, or have someone ready to use buffs to push those debuffs off fast. Those are my comments on the fight. Mino, you have not had a chance to try the chaos yet, right?
No, I guess we're doing this blind after the show, according to Mark.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
Okay, so that is it for the chaos. We'll talk about it a little bit more. We do not have a TCC challenge for you guys yet because it's so deeply buried in the story. We do not have a lot of call to arms submissions yet. We have not had a lot of time to think about it. We will probably get a TCC challenge for you guys soon, maybe within the next day or two. And for Abyss, we will not be doing a TCC challenge at all. It is permanent content. There's already restrictions on it. We'll let you guys have fun with that.
And
We'll discuss Abyss Normalis next week. We're already running long on the show, so we will come back to that. Have fun with Normalis. Don't rush and kill yourselves trying to complete it. Take your time. Also, for the story chapter, one thing I forgot to mention, there is a co-op associated with it. Do not feel like you have to rush through the story chapter to get all of the character board points that are associated with it. You get character board points for doing the co-op. So if you need to farm them up there, you'll be fine. You can get the 5,000 easily by just doing the co-op grind and clearing out the co-op shop over the next couple weeks. So there you go. Mino, you want to move on to the host discussion now?
Sure. I don't have as long as a rant as you think I do, but that could change because it's been drinking for an hour and a half. But let me see if I can keep it brief. Basically, guys, to host discussion, we got some feedback lately that a lot of that the us three co-hosts have really taken to heart, and I think it's good feedback. Uh, One is that it feels like our podcast is skewed too much towards veterans, which admittedly it is. The three of us have been playing so long. The circles we play with our mods and our content creator circles, they're the ones that analyze the shit out of this game. We have fucking Macnol, Strafe, Lee, Aarolei, the Tonberry Troupe is a subsidiary of TCC. Don't forget that, guys. And like these are the guys who like do the hardcore theory crafting and create 90% of the fucking community's resources and stuff. It's ridiculous. So it is true that we probably lose sight of the beginner perspective a lot because we've all been playing this game for years and we do the hardcore number crunching. So if it ever feels like our advice skews towards the veteran perspective, I apologize for that. We're actually thinking about what we can do. I would like to have more fresh faces on the podcast as guests, like Zeno TXB Games is a great personality and content creator who's very fresh to this game and tackling it new. Or, we might just go onto the Facebook groups and pluck some randoms and get them on the show. So, we're playing with some ideas, but we definitely do want to reconsider the angle we go into these discussions as. And the second thing related to the first point is that last week's episode, or most episodes in general, and I really felt it because I sat as a guest on the sidelines for last week because of internet problems. I actually had all my research prepped and ready to go on, and I feel like if I was on, I could have canceled out some of it. But Ink and Mark and Kriese, they got some criticism last week that I sort of agree with, that they were talking more about the underrated characters like Ida and Zidane more than the hyped meta characters like Alphino and Kais. That they kind of skewed bias towards discussing Ida and Zidane in a good light, and they kind of downplayed how strong Kais and Alphino were. And I felt that a little sitting on the sidelines. I had a lot more hype to give those characters. Kais and Alphino are not particularly difficult characters and very strong in many situations. If I were here, I would have said Alphino is like the new Rosa with his unprecedented attack and max brave buffs, along with steady healing. Just sit on the field and enable a million teams. Or Kais is just strong in general, very easy to use, and even fun for veterans because he's not brain dead. There's a high skill ceiling, a lot of turn manipulation, and a lot of tricks you can do with him. So I want to say, while I'm here, I do like to say that the meta characters are strong in meta for a reason, and I always generally talk about how strong they are when it comes to ease of play. Like Call of Duty tonight, I said isn't such an easy character to just plop in and play. She has a pretty decently high skill floor, but not for everybody. Like, it's not like an Emperor where you just throw them in and press buttons and you'll win. But just to generalize, all I wanted to say is that the meta characters are super strong in meta for a reason. They are nearly brain dead in execution, and there's really not much to say about these characters, honestly. We can't talk about optimizing Aranea play or Arciela play because they're so easy, they don't need it. Aranea, you can just press buttons and you will win. Arciela, the only thing people need to know is HP silence on S2 and you will win. So like that's why
Dispel on skill 1.
Yeah, like that's why these characters don't get as much discussion on the podcast, because their strength is evident. All the other content creators cover it, and it's just playing them. It's obvious why they're strong. We talk up we might tend to talk up the lesser known characters because they need a champion and they need more finesse to get the most out of them. And it's kind of like, look, Zidane actually can be very good. You just need context on your roster and how to use them. Or like Kefka or Cloud of Duty. And it's just, like these characters need more discussion. Some of these characters honestly have more niche and nuanced kits that need more discussion. The super meta characters you can find information on anywhere, and it's very, very obvious. Like Eldnarsh coming up, even if you don't know what his kit does, you're going to steamroll content with him. Just like Arciela. I've seen so many comments. Nobody has any idea what Arciela does, but they press buttons and they win because she just HP silences for 12 fucking turns. So like you don't need a in-depth strategy coverage of that. But people like Kefka, Zidane, and Ida, who have stricter rotations and who are more context sensitive, like that's just what we end up talking more about on the podcast. So I will try to when I'm here, I will try to talk up the meta characters more. Apparently, Ink is the leader of Tonberry Troupe. He's a super hipster. He likes to shit on all the meta characters. Don't listen to anything he says.
Well, I appreciate your. We appreciate all of our listeners, regardless of how long you've been playing or how much devotion you have to the game or how much skill you have to the game. Obviously, I hope if you're one of our listeners that you would have gotten from 3 weeks ago, where Mino spent most of his Fujin evaluation talking up Kais, and then me and Jin Lee having a whole pull battle video about Kais, and I think you would know if you watched the show. I don't spend gems lightly, and I spent gems on Kais. And then we did talk about how good Kais was. But yeah, I think, we also spent a lot of time that week, all four of us, listening to a lot of people just kind of pass over Zidane, pass over Ida, and they're characters we really like. And so, yeah, of course, we're going to talk about them. And we did, to be fair, we got a lot of people saying, thank you for talking about Zidane. Zidane's so good. I really like him. He's a favorite character. I felt like he wasn't good, but I'm glad you talked about him. So, yeah, thank you everybody's got different opinions. And that's why we have more than one host, and that's why we have guests and everything else. And so thank you all for listening. So, Kriese, yeah, if there's some other questions, we got a backlog of questions. So we got a few minutes. Let's answer some of those questions from our Discord. We have a whole channel, podcast questions. Go in there, ask us anything, and we'll try to cover it on the show when we have time, which is apparently not very often. So, Kriese, yeah, let's see if we can get through some questions tonight.
Before we go into questions, I just want to remind people that I did purple Alphino, and despite how it might have seemed last week of us talking down Alphino, I did spend a long time defending Alphino from the ink slander of him talking down the character and my lover. So
he's banned
just keep that in mind.
From now on,
I did listen back to the show. I thought we actually covered all of them fairly.
Really? Okay. But I'm saying to address the issue, guys,
just in case.
Ink is banned from the podcast. Don't worry. You'll never have to hear him again.
That's not true.
This means that the only Tonberry Troupe member you'll ever hear again is Dreamy.
Fuck Dreamy. too. The only one you'll ever hear that I'll let on the show is maybe Vayne Novus, and he never talks, so you're shit out of luck.
We love Vayne Novus and Teleute as well. We love all the Tonberry Troupe and Dreamy. So. So let's some questions.
So this is a question we've been
Please.
sitting on for a month, but I figure we might as well answer it now. We'll go with rough estimates if you don't want to do a real count. I'm probably going to do a rough count myself because I don't know the exact number. How many ingots have you guys spent so far? On?
Fuck.
I can tell you exactly.
Fuck, yeah, and I need to load up the game. I could have used some forewarning.
I have spent... this would be before... so let me do it with Cloud of Darkness here. I have spent 52 books and 136 ingots. There you go.
That's way better than me. What the fuck?
Actual data. There you go.
Okay, I spent 62 books.
Really?
And 5, 6, 7. I spend as many books as I can get because I feel like we're never going to run out of books. Yeah. I don't know if that's like a bad thing, but 33 times 3, 99 ingots. Is that real? That can't be real. My math.
I think I've spent 26 ingots, but I might be off by a couple.
How many ingots do we have?
I spent an odd number because I put one ingot into Fangit early on.
7 times 5 is 35. 38. 38 times 3. What's 38 times 3, guys? Help me out here. I'm drunk. 38 times 3 is 90.
114. 114.
114, 115, 116 ingots. 116 ingots and 62 books, and I have bought... I've bought 2 books and 2 ingots. Yep. I've only bought the 5's day sale. And
okay,
then,
my math's really off. I'm not awake right now.
Yeah. I've only bought the 5's day sale because all the rest of the ingot bundles have been insulting and trash, and I refuse to purchase more books and ingots until the 5's day sale comes back.
That's fair.
I'll do real math later. I'm probably close to around Mino is.
I have bought all the books, all 4 book packs, and several ingots. So that's.
Is this how much money we've actually spent buying ingots in the game? Not how much we've invested.
No,
how many ingots we've invested in characters.
It's invested. I'm just giving context that I bought 2 books and 2 ingots. Yeah.
Yep. All right. Thank you. Next question.
Okay, we'll do a little not DFF OO related question by. I can't remember. Is this Balucky? After Square Enix finishes with the FF7 remake in 2050, what game do you think they should remake next? And if so, should they remake another one? And if so, which one? He votes or they vote tactics. Which one would you choose? I think they should do Final Fantasy 6 myself.
I disagree.
I think 6 because I mean, as much as we all love 6, except for me, it's not the biggest moneymaker, right?
How dare you?
Right? No, but I'm seriously, right? I mean, 7's the biggest, but what's right after 7? Does anybody know what the next kind of big moneymaker was? I forget. I've looked at it before, but
financially, it's one of the newer ones, like 15 or 13 or 14.
10 sounds right.
10 might be up there.
Very truthfully, I mean, obviously, I would say 8 because I love Final Fantasy 8. But very truthfully, 7 was the only one that I actually have trouble playing, like replaying, just because of the early 3D polygon kind of thing. So I'm really glad they did a 7 remake. 7 and 8, the translations were issues, so I think 8 would be great. But I wouldn't. I'd play a Final Fantasy 6 remake. 4 is one of my favorite. I'd play 4. I think 10's great. I don't think 10 needs to be remade at all. I think 10's very playable. Yeah, I think 9's very playable too.
A lot of people were playing 6, and 6 is my favorite, and that's why I want them to keep their filthy fucking hands off of it. Because first, 6 is the last game made by the majority old team. Majority of the people worked FF1 to FF6. 6 was the last big game made by majority old school people. Tetsuya Nomura, please keep your filthy fucking hands off of it. I don't need any time travel bullshit or retcons or anything on 6. They're going to kill it. Ever since 7 and on, it's been more anime melodrama than good old-fashioned storytelling and fantasy. So I don't need that shit mixing into 6. So please just remake 7 again or something. Because
melodrama.
Anime melodrama. That's all fucking 7, 8, and 15 is. Next question.
Did Kriese answer? I don't.
What was the question again? I already deleted it.
Curzon, I'll answer Curzon. I'll answer Curzon real quick. Yeah, that'd be great. Auto farming where you can set like in 7 Deadly Sins. Yeah, that would be wonderful. But they don't have it in Japan, so I wouldn't expect it anytime soon. So yeah, I'd love it. It'd be great to just sit your phone down for a couple hours and auto farm.
Another lucky question. He says he's having a Power Stone shortage, but he's sitting on a bunch of EX duplicates he'd hope would be better compensation for at some point. Are the co-hosts keeping dupe X's or just selling them? I'll go first. I'm selling my dupe EXs.
I'm selling them. What the fuck? I'm not rich enough to hold on to them for
mine. I have not sold any dupe EXs.
Wait, really? Holy shit.
Now, if I had gotten 3 Cloud of Darkness EXs, I would have used them to limit break her. But like ones that I've pulled extra, like just from pulling on banners with extras, I think I have about 11 dupes. Yeah, I haven't sold them. I mean, they're sitting there.
Okay, my logic is that at the point in the game we are, EX token or EX weapons are only going to become more and more common as we go forward, and dupe EXs are going to become more and more common. So if I really want the extra ingots from booking, realizing them, and then selling them for those extra realization resources going forward, it's going to become easier and easier to just come across them. So I'd rather just accrue the extra Power Stones now.
Onto that,
I can't do anything with them.
Adding on to that, Curzon in chat is saying, I heard dupe EXs are able to be sold for EX nuggets later, so I haven't sold mine. To clarify, what they mean is if they're realized, they can be sold for 5 nuggets, and each LB after that is 5 nuggets. It's 1/4 nuggets invested. Fuck! I can't math right now.
It's a quarter of the nuggets invested or back. Basically, you invest a book, you get a quarter of the nuggets back.
Right.
If you invest an ingot, you get a quarter of the nuggets back after that. So it's at this moment, it is not worth the realization resources. You can't get them back, and it would be less. If you just spend the book, you're still getting realization resources out of it if you do not need books for other EX weapons.
Yeah, so it's you have to 12 Power Stones it and book it to get those 5 nuggets, which might not be worth it. And as Kriese said, later on, EXs become much more available, so there's no real need to hold on to it. But honestly, if your luck is insanely good and your resources are good, it could pay off. I've seen people get dupe spheres and not regret it. I'm not going to tell you how to play the game. I'm just too poor to do that shit, for sure.
Oh yeah, I'm saving my extra Vanille EX. That's for darn sure. Never know when you need another Dispeller.
Pikachu asks, what is the best way to prepare for bosses that reduce brave damage taken instead of increasing their defense? I think we've talked about this a little bit in various ways over the past couple of weeks. Is the only way to wait for power creep. I think Mino's going to explain this a little better than me. We've spoken about this a little bit. There's a couple ways to deal with the brave damage reduction issue. You either deal with it with batteries, you deal with it through elemental imperil enchant teams, you deal with it with the crit damage bonus multiplier, those sorts of things. Mino, do you want to elaborate any more?
Yeah, so we never talked about this officially, but basically, like I said, for the first month or two, the damage reduction peaks at 50%. That means any enchant imperil will negate it, because hitting weakness damage is an extra 50%, which cancels out the 50% damage reduction. Any of the crit boosts, like Saws and Aranea, are an extra 50%. They cancel out the 50% damage reduction. So basically, for the early couple of months of damage reduction, when it caps at 50%, Enchant Imperil and crit damage multipliers, or even like we're getting a ton of tools to get around it right now, guys. Zidane does weakness damage with MoG. Kefka does weakness damage with debuffs. A lot of characters do. Almost all characters releasing right now can bypass the damage reduction. Do not worry. Basically, anything that is a brave damage multiplier of 50% or more cancels out the brave reduction. That means mighties. Each mighty is about 10% damage increase, cancels out part of the 50%, or enchant and peril will completely cancel it. The crit modifiers will completely cancel it. It is not that scary yet, guys. Enchant and peril for sure is the easiest way. Eventually, after 2 months, it raises to about 70%. So these methods won't completely cancel it, but they get rid of 50% of whatever it is. So if it's a 70% increase and you're doing enchant and peril, you're only dealing with a 20% damage reduction. How damage reduction works is additive. So any modifiers you have are just subtracted from theirs and it cancels out. It is not Black Cloud has said this, and he'll probably say it again when we have him on the show. This has been blown up to be a bigger deal than it is. It is completely ignorable in the first 2 months. Just a lot of enchant and perils and saws or Aranea. Again, people who say Aranea is outdated are stupid. Really, really stupid. She's gonna cancel out damage reduction for the first 2 months. Easy. Even more so. So it's not that big a deal if you prepare for it. GL has the foresight. Don't be afraid. And again, all the characters now have abilities to get around. Kefka, 60% increase on debuffs.
Oh yeah.
That means it overrides it. Zidane with MoG hits weakness, which means he cancels it. A lot of these characters dead on cancel it. But Mark, anything to add to that?
Yeah, no, I think, what's the best way to deal with the new power creep? Pull. Right? Get new characters. But also, right, everything Mino said, enchant and peril, brave damage up, all that. So I don't think it's really going to be, Aranea and Saz do actually work well together. Oh, that's terrifying, actually. Put an enchant and peril on them, and that's just sick. They won't have any problem. But yeah, I don't think, play the game, you'll be fine. And if you're struggling, come on our Discord. We'll help you out. Oh, next question.
This is more a question, I think, for Mark, since he's really the manager of the behind-the-scenes stuff. Quetz asks, Season 4 on LDBT era.
Yeah, just like Whose Line Is It Anyway? The seasons don't matter. They're just kind of made up. Because I haven't restarted the episode numbers every time we've changed seasons. So yeah, that was the plan. I probably should be working on that, getting everything updated for season 4, the BTLD, or we'll wait till Lefania, because really, I don't know. We'll decide. We'll talk about it.
We're gonna keep the numbering, right?
Yeah,
I don't want to.
No, we'll keep the numbering regardless.
I need to keep the count.
Mm-hmm. Yep, 108. Good question. Thank you.
Okay, Retro Gamer Dad asks, who is a character that you just don't get? You may understand them on paper, but when you try to use them, you just can't seem to get the most out of them. Examples that Retro Gamer Dad gives are characters like Ultimecia and Launchers. For me personally, I never really got my head around Quetz back around his original release. I never really liked the character. I never figured out how to make him work properly. So that's my answer. I never really got Quetz.
Ooh, I was going to give my answer, but then Eamon said it in chat, so I don't want to agree with Eamon's.
No, go for it. Go for it, Mark, please.
No, I was going to say, and I've said this before, like my least used meta / purple character is Penelo. And not, I think Mino said because she's so hard to play. I don't know that she's so hard to play. I just don't.
Emphasis. I did not put that emphasis.
I don't know. I just haven't enjoyed her. Maybe I just don't. Maybe I'm not using her right. It's not like she's been bad and I'm like, oh, she sucks. No, she's great, but I don't know. I'd rather use other characters, very truthfully.
To humble brag like the elitists we are, I'm gonna say there's no character I don't like get. Yeah, because like I do all this research, but there are characters I do not like.
Yeah.
and that's very obvious, and I say that a lot. Whereas, like, I don't like counter characters. Personal play style, I know they're very strong. People have shown 8 and Galuf and Gao to go the distance. And Emperor. I used literally one fight and never touched him again. And these are characters, like, I understand why they're strong. I just don't like playing them. And I don't like debuffers. And I don't like enemy phase characters because I like to, play the game and have maximum control. So if they're... I can't think of like a meta character that I would like not like, because even Penelo I've used a good amount, but I mean that's just going to be my answer. I don't like debuffers and counter characters.
Okay, we'll go with this next question. I don't think the person who asked is going to be particularly thrilled because I don't think any of us are going to give a great answer. Alhazard asks, which top 3 spheres would you prefer to have a duplicate of? And my answer is I do not know because I do not use spheres.
What the fuck? I forgot spheres existed until this question.
There are
What?
spheres.
I'm sorry, Al. I cannot. I haven't used a single sphere.
I have not used a single sphere either. Sorry.
Holy shit! I'm so sorry.
That sphere
Well,
question
I
is
am.
sitting in
I
our-
am the
in
master.
Mark is our
of-
resident.
I
Mark
am
is our
the
resident
expert
sphere
in sphere usage. But very truthfully, Vanille, I have an extra Vanille EX, and I probably will purple it at some point because I think her sphere is that awesome. I'm not sure that there's any other spheres that I like as much as hers because she can basically do what Cloud's World of Illusion weapon does for anybody with an E sphere. I think that's freaking awesome. So yeah, master of misusage. Oh yeah, you haven't seen my X death. That's for damn sure. That's the well. I mean, there's the X death incident and the Squall incident. Besides that, there's no misusage. That was bad though. Yeah, that was terrible. But I can remove that one. So
Speedy Ultra says, I have no spheres used and no character boards used because I don't feel there's a need. I just want to point out. Oh wait, no, that's Night is full of dark and terrors. My vision's blurring over. I just want to point out, like, I feel like character boards are in a different league than spheres. They're very, very strong. Spheres are negligible at best.
I think a character board
You also
is
get a lot
like
more character board points than spheres.
character board is like the caramel, right? But the spheres are like the cherry on the sundae.
God damn it, you beat me to it. But what I was gonna say was shit. Like, character boards significantly increase character power, but spheres are only strong if you're doing TCC challenges. So therefore, very strong. But for the average player, not needed at all.
Cool, thank you.
So Twee asked a question that is kind of moot now because it's been kind of answered by the fact we know what the summer event is. So sorry, Twee, we did not get to this before the last community stream, but I'll at least voice what the question was. Speculation discussion. What will Square Enix do with the July event that featured Cater and Dark Knight Cecil in Japan? We got Dark Knight Cecil in the Phoenix Cave event after Noctis appeared on Arenea's banner. What will happen since Cater's kind of been isolated right now? We actually don't know what's happening with Cater. Cater might not be on the summer event at all. So what do the co-hosts think is happening? Is Cater going to get a new partner for the summer event? Is Cater being moved to a different event? So I'll go first. I actually suspect that Cater will not be on the summer event at all. They're doing something else. Cater will appear in August somewhere else.
Mark, want to take the next one? I mean, the next spot.
Yeah, what's the next spot? I was
Cater,
not paying attention.
Cater. Do you think Cater's coming?
I would assume she's coming. Whoa, watch out. This is not after hours yet. I would assume we're going to see. Hey, our friend Jin Lee is here. Check out his how to play. We didn't mention how to play Call of Darkness, Cloud of Darkness, Feet of Darkness. Check out. He is a great
you forgot
video.
The Cloud of Duty.
Cloud of Duty, Codfish. Figure out how to play his video on YouTube, Jinlee on YouTube. Awesome. With the Jinlee on YouTube. How to play COD. There you go. Next question.
Wait, hold on. Let me. So, I personally think Cater will arrive, this summer banner. If she doesn't, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Because so many people were grinding her boards to plug her into a solo entropy tier just to get the rewards. And if they get fucked over by Square Enix, that is hilarious. And I have no problem with that. But also, I am hoping for a time traveler since Dessel got moved up. I hope somebody takes his place on the second one.
They have delayed characters in the past. I will remind.
No doubt.
Vaughn got delayed before for various reasons, so it is not unprecedented for characters get delayed.
Characters have been delayed for sure, so do not count that out. But also for Dessel's slot, I am crossing my fingers and praying for an early Kane EX Plus. Square Enix Joshua, I know you're here, so that's the only reason I'm saying this. Early Kane EX Plus, please. I know that there's some shenanigans going on behind the scenes, and VV makes more sense because he's just so shitty. It doesn't really matter if you move him up. And he's probably going to get the spot because he makes so little difference. But like, I know there's some shenanigans going on at Square Enix headquarters. I know the Type 0 dev has like amazing clout because his game got 2 chapters and all their characters in, and great kits. And I know the FF4 dev is phoning it in because all the FF4 characters have just been underwhelming for the last 3 years.
The FF10 dev hasn't shown up to work. He's been missing in action.
The FF4 dev is phoning it in. Kane consistently pulls high in that NHK JP FF poll. Kane was in the top 10. When voted for on who should get a keychain that wasn't a protagonist, it was Kane. When they voted who should make it into Dissidia games that wasn't a protagonist, it was Kane. Like, Kane is consistently a top 10 favorite across the entire series. And I know there's some blackmail going on or something to make him consistently shitty in this fucking game for some reason. So if you just bring him early and give me joy to play him for a couple of months before he turns to shit again, that would be so great. You lose nothing. There's so many Kane fans, please. Like, there's several DFFOO streamers called Kane Highwind. That would be great. But I know we're probably going to get VV or nothing because I don't know. They hate us.
What about Edge? What about Rosa? What about Porum?
Porum is middling. I wouldn't say she's a big meta pick. Very situational. Let's all agree that. I think she's very strong, but she's not a popular pull, right? Like, when Porum comes around, no one's hyping up. None of the content creators are hyping up Porum to pull Porum, right?
Okay.
Like, Edge. I would say that.
Yeah, Edge is really good when he works too. Yeah, but
okay, I'll give you one. I'll give you the Edge, but Edge only blew up on the EX Plus. On his launch and his 35. And his regular EX, he didn't get huge waves. Rosa she's a waifu, so that's to be expected.
Dark Knight Cecil carried those early co-ops, remember?
Cecil is
Dark Knight Cecil got early rework or early EX Plus. He's been rocking it for a couple months now. Cecil's been a very solid character since he got his rework in EX Plus. He hasn't been like top meta, but he's been a very solid pick.
Okay, but Yong's been fucked over. Palom's been fucked over. Who else is from that stupid ass game? Help me out here. Who else
Rydia.
from that stupid game? Rydia's been fucked over consistently.
I think the real question is, what kind of dirt does the dev of Crystal Bearers have on the boss? I think that's the only. That's the only question. Hey, Kriese. Kriese, let's do one more and call it a night, and we'll stick around for post show and do some things too. So,
do we want to do a real question or a joke question?
I think whatever.
Trust.
Make a judgment.
What is your favorite Kai scene from Crystal Bears?
Yeah, okay, easy. When Leilee goes to the capital and meets Keis, I mean, they have a relationship, obviously, but when he goes to try to recruit him and he says, "That's Colonel Keis to you," that was my favorite scene. I mean, I just bawled. There was laughing, there was crying. It was so. Oh, I mean, and I love the fact that he gets that voice line. Every time I get chills, every time I hear his voice line, "That's Colonel Keis to you." So, really
voice
well.
line in DFFOO?
What?
Is that a DFFOO voice line? Did it make it
Yeah.
in?
Yeah, that's let's go on here to see his voice lines. How do we get it here? Guide. Yep. Voice line. You really are addicted to trouble, aren't you? Oh, I remember when he said that to Leilee. What those two. From this time forward, refer to me as Colonel Keis. That's just powerful. This is the big finale. Are you all set? I mean, that was before the final save of the game. So you knew, like, if you keep going, you can't, reset anymore. So use all your potions. Yeah. So yeah, I hope you've all been informed. I mean, it's one of my favorite games. I hope you all like it. I do own a Wii. Someday I might actually buy it.
It's a good game. I don't know. A lot of people in chat are saying that they played it and it was meh. But like, I do know there are actual legit fans of the game, but it sounds like a niche game, like not a.
It wouldn't blow up. It's got 3 characters in default from this it's the 4th installment of the Crystal Chronicles, which is a sub installment of Final Fantasy. It's hilarious to me. I mean, no disrespect to the game. I've not played it. One of these days I should try to pick up a used copy and play it, because I do actually own a Nintendo Wii. But yeah, I think it's just hilarious. It's the 4th installment on a kind of sub-series of games. We don't even have a pro tag from the 2nd game, right? Charlotta's from the 3rd game. Karen's from the 1st game, obviously. But I think we're missing a character from this. Is that right, or do we have a Crystal Chronicles character?
I don't fucking know, dude.
I forget. Let me check.
I
Crystal
played these
Chronicles.
games, but a lot of them were like you create your own player.
Aarolei and a Twee are saying that Yuri and Chalink are from the 2nd game.
Oh yeah, Yuri. Yeah, yeah. So we do have representation from every Crystal Chronicles game, which I think is fine. I think that's great. Why do we have 3? We're going to get 3. We have 2 right now. We're going to have 3 characters from the Crystal Bears, which is the newest one, and I guess you can still buy it. So maybe that's why. But yeah, still waiting on Riku, because nobody like Red 13. Nobody likes them.
I understand why they're saving Riku, because
there's 2 characters from Tactics, which is arguably a lot of people's favorite Final Fantasy game.
They're fucking hipsters.
I know. Nobody likes it.
I guess Tactics really bombed in Japan.
Yeah, it was not as popular.
That was a shit rumor started on the DFFOO main chord, because we looked up sales on the popularity polls, that NHK popularity poll. It rated decently high. It beat out some of the main series games. And it was popular enough to get an FF14 crossover, and a people do like that game.
And where are the crossover characters for this?
The FF Tactics dev got fired like 2 years ago.
He's been dead.
No one's really replaced him.
Yeah, it's been
tough. I guess they just
Well, thank you all for your questions. I'm going to wrap up episode 108. I've been sharing the post show, so join us for post show, more talk. We're getting a little bit off now, but thank you for joining us for episode 108. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you for all those questions. They're great. I do enjoy you when you ask questions. Feel free to continue to do that on our Discord. Looking ahead, we have Aphmaw's last chapter on the 28th, just in a couple days. The first of the summer incursion events and banners will begin before we meet next time. And then the Dimensions End campaign will start as well. I don't believe... I think Eldnarsh is after our next episode, correct? Or... Oh, let me look.
Eldnarsh will be a week after.
Yep.
So we will not be talking about Eldnarsh on next week's podcast.
Yeah.
Just to get one last word in before you end the episode, people in chat are saying Why are they taking so long to put Riku into the game? Guys, Riku is already in the game. She's coming on Sunday next to Aphmau.
Yep.
Her EX Plus.
Yeah.
So just pull that. Like, why are you guys complaining?
Yeah.
Riku's already here.
She's in the game. Yeah, she likes water. She's in Elbed. Riku hype. All right. So yeah, feel free to check out all of the links to our social media, our YouTube. Hey, if you listen on the podcast, give us a like on Google Play or Apple iTunes. That does really help. Hey, and go support the game. If you haven't given the game a rating on the app stores on whatever device you use, give the game a rating and a review. That helps get people interested in the game, right? So do that. Consider that. I hadn't even done that until this week. I'm like, oh, I can do that. And that does help the game. So consider that. TCCpodcast.com for all those links. Join our Discord. Just enjoy that. Thanks to our friends, the Tonberry Troupe, for all the work they do. TonberryTroupe.com. That's Inkwelder, Dreamy, Teleute, and Vayne Novus. Thanks to Macnol, the Call to Arms, DecidiaInfo.com. Thanks to Kriese, Mino, for all the work they do preparing this show and showing up every week. I think that's a big deal. Don't take it for granted. I sure don't. Thanks to all of our mods and all of our friends, Aarolei, Leilee on YouTube, Inkwelder, JdotA, Jin Lee on YouTube, Macnol, Quetz, Materia Bot, support Materia Bot, Shera on Reddit, Strafe on YouTube, Black Cloud, Black Nero on YouTube as well, Dreamy for our intro video, Jin Lee for our backgrounds, emotes, Hate13 for our intro narration, and Ryan is the Bomb 203 on YouTube for our intro music. And as always, thank you for our founder Pierre and the work he did back in the FFRK days, starting this back in the first season 1. But not now, we're in season 3. So hey, this has been episode 108 of the Crystal Chronicles, recorded on this June 25th, 2018. For myself, Mino, and Kriese, I wish you all the best of luck, good luck, and goodbye.